Something that was crossing my mind recently is how we're expected to be providers, be the paycheck, be the protector, whatever you want to call it. Be this traditionally masculine kind of 1950s boyfriend. But the second you try to have women be more accountable, you want them to be loyal, you want them to be respectful, you want them to be feminine, traditionally feminine, you're told that you're controlling. You're told that you're manipulative, along with a bunch of other buzzwords, whatever you want to call it. And it's a one-way street. We're expected to maintain ourselves a certain way where women just seem to have the freedom to do whatever they want to do with this kind of high-value woman stuff, thinking that the only thing they need to provide into the relationship is being a female. That's not at all how it works. If you're not going to have respect in the relationship, it is never going to work. And if you guys are in a relationship like that or dating a girl like that, you got to show her the door, because that's going to be a complete waste of your time. Even I think about a lot of the stuff I hear about women's past, which, I understand that everyone's done things in the past that perhaps they're not proud of, but understand something. Men shouldn't have to step up if a woman had a phase where they were sleeping around or whatever you want to call it. Because stepping up shouldn't be a way to accept your actions. People have to naturally face consequences for their actions. And I understand that our past doesn't define us. I get that. I, as anyone else, have done things in the past and made mistakes that they're not proud of. But if a girl's 30-something years old and slept around her whole life and had all these good men trying to ask her out in her 20s, reject them because she wanted to go with the toxic guy, or she just wanted to be, she was thinking she was too good for him, which I'm going to get into that as well. It doesn't make sense for a man to step up. It doesn't make sense at all, especially if you're someone who has been respectable. You had focus. You worked hard. You built something for yourself. You shouldn't have to step up for a person like that. And when I think it's such a big problem now, why a lot of women are not dating or anything like that, why they're being so rude and dismissive towards men, is because I remember back when I was younger, right? In high school, you had a few men who, for the most part, got either most of the girls or all the girls, the popular girls, whatever you want to call it. Where sure, women have always looked towards marrying up, whatever you want to say. But understand something, back then they were looking at the best guy in their neighborhood or in their town or in their city, in their high school, in their college. Nowadays, every single woman has a smartphone. They all have the whole world at their fingertips. Now they're comparing themselves, or they're comparing men with not just men in their town or neighborhood. Now it's literally every man on the planet. We're talking millions and billions of people out there. To where now most average women think that they're entitled to some 1% man, wanting to strive towards that. Average, decent men, which the worst part is most of these guys probably go to the gym, take care of themselves, probably have careers they built, are doing all the right things in life, but they're seen as invisible. They're seen as non-existent. And I think something, again, that's important to understand when women see this stuff on social media, whether it's the height, the looks, the physique, because, everyone's going to show themselves in the limelight, the yachts and that kind of stuff. Understand, a lot of that stuff is rented, it's fake, it's filtered, it's not real life. It's not real life at all. Like, you have people on social media literally having multiple accounts with multiple different personalities, don't have any personality in person. They'll post 10 to 20 different things a day on there, real stories, whatever. Yet they're doing nothing productive during the day. It's fake. That's what it is. It's pretentious. And you have women looking at a filtered, unrealistic standard now, a lot of the time, to base on dating. And it's super destructive. Of course, dynamics are never going to work that way because it's not even a real person. It's not even a real thing. That's what it is. It's not even real life on there. I remember when I was growing up, yes, we had MySpace, yes, we had Facebook. But I was in high school around the time that I got out of high school was when Instagram and Snapchat started becoming a thing, becoming popular. And, you know, you didn't have people looking at the pictures and comparing and stuff like that. People were just, it wasn't perfect. Things have never been perfect. But it wasn't nearly as toxic as it is now. Not even close. And what's so crazy to me is you have a lot of women now who are on dating apps getting bombarded with DMs and attention to where a lot of the time they don't look at men as relational anymore. They look at them as transactional. They look at men as something that they can seek validation from for their own ego, for their own egocentric purposes. And unfortunately, you have a lot of men that are still DMing these girls nonstop, that are still giving them the false validations. Relationships are a joke nowadays. If you want to speed things up, you're being needy. If you want to be clear and concise with your intentions, you're being needy, or you're speeding up, whatever you want to call it. If you text too frequently or respond too fast, you're desperate. It's absolutely insane. These games that you're expected to play, that's not a normal thing. And even women testing men like that, why would you want someone who's constantly going to test you and challenge you 24/7? That's not feminine behavior. Nothing feminine about it. And it's us as men need to understand that if we have someone there that is trying to steer and pull and push buttons and this and that, guys, that's manipulation. That's manipulative. For you to text someone and see how often they're going to text me back, what time they text me back, and then basing your interaction with them off that is manipulation. That is egocentric. Because you're thinking, oh, he texted me back, so I must be above him. He texted me back within less than 10 minutes, so I must be above him. He must be desperate. That's not living in reality. That's really just games, and again, it's manipulation. And I think, too, a lot of people need to understand this, because it's pretty crazy how some people will try to act like men are the issue, when in reality, men are not wanting anything really to do with this, because they see it as, it's almost like a rigged casino game, where the house has the advantage, and the house is always winning. Men are walking away from relationships like no time I've seen. Never in my life have I seen so many men be just completely disinterested. No interest in approaching women. No interest in dating or relationships. And people need to understand that men don't want to play these kind of games. They don't. And understand something. If you're a man right now and you're single, especially if you don't have a bunch of distractions, social life, stuff like that, you have this amazing opportunity to lock in. This amazing opportunity to achieve your goals, to work towards something, because a lot of the time those things are a distraction. Girlfriends in many cases are a distraction, especially in today's climate. Social lives are a distraction, complete distraction. People wanting to hang out, girls again wanting to go on dates, all this kind of stuff, pulling you away from things you should be doing. Men should always focus on their purpose. If you're going to have people around you who are going to derail you from your purpose, you need to distance yourself from them. Doesn't matter if it's a relationship, doesn't matter what it is. Because that's where you start to lose the self-respect. That's where you see a lot of guys get caught up in chasing women, because they don't have mission and purpose in life. They don't. And, I think a big issue too is that a lot of men who are doing all the right things, which is many men that I've seen, quite frankly, most men that I talk to and interact with, who are doing all the right things that they should in a relationship. Like I said, take care of themselves, going to the gym, working on their careers, working on themselves. A woman should want to be supportive of that. I even had a friend of mine where he was dating a girl and he wanted to become an actor. And he had mentioned to the girl the idea of him going into acting. And she was casting doubt on it, saying, oh, I don't think you'd ever do that. I don't think you'd ever commit to that, this and that. So if this girl's not supporting your mission and purpose, she's going to derail you from that. She wants control of your life. A real woman in a relationship should want to see that man succeed. They shouldn't only want to be with them when they've already made it. They should want to be with them along the way. Especially if they see someone who is working towards something that's going to lead to success down the line. Again, the whole concept of delayed gratification, I don't think many women or people understand anymore. Rome wasn't built in a day. These things take time. But they see the social media lifestyle. They see the yachts. They see all that, which a lot of times is rented. They see the cars, again, a lot of the time is rented. And they want it now. Like, how could a woman not see a man like that, thinking he's going to go into acting, potentially even do very well in acting? You'd think she would be supportive. But everyone now, women just want things handed to them. Because like I mentioned with the hypergamy stuff, they're no longer comparing themselves, or I shouldn't say comparing themselves, competing towards whatever you want to call it, striving to get the best man in the town, the best man in the neighborhood, or in the high school, or in the college. It's really the best man on the planet, the social media stuff. And again, the thing too is I hear people say, level up, level up, level up. Understand, I'm all for living yourself to the best of your ability, being the best version of yourself. But my point being is that average men should not have a hard time getting average women. Understand that. These women are not Victoria's Secret models that you see with this mentality. And either way, you should not base your existence off female attention. You shouldn't just want to level up just to attract women. That's even why I disagree with a lot of people which I think the gym is paramount. It's necessary. But a lot of men who go to the gym saying that they're there just for women, just for women, just for women. That to me is a form of chasing. In some weird fashion, to me is a form of chasing. Because you're basing your daily routine around women. I would say like going to the gym should be about feeling your best, should be about looking your best, and should be about being presentable, fitting clothes right, being healthy, number one, being strong, number two, because God forbid anything happen. You want to be physically able. That's why I go to the gym. I never really understood that, where men just said, I want to get women, I want to get women. But besides the point, this isn't a tangent about the gym per se. But just to point out that I see a lot of guys still falling for this kind of stuff. And it's like crazy how social media has blown out of proportion the expectations and just this kind of unrealistic standard, where average women look at average men and think that they're invisible, think that they're below them. And it's so crazy to me, where, the top 1% of men would have been for the top whatever percent of women. Now I'm seeing a lot of average women who are not settling. There is really hardly any commitment in relationships. This 1 foot in, 1 foot out, kind of half this way, half that way, is what I see a lot of time nowadays. It really is. Having a guy on the side they're talking to, I'm talking to this guy. It's insane to me. A lot of women getting caught on dating apps. Unfortunately, to say this, not just to be realistic, I think a lot of men who are in relationships, if they saw the stuff that was on their girl's phone, it would probably be enough to warrant a breakup, whether it's things in their social media DMs, whether it's them having dating apps on the phone, which I've even heard gaslights of saying, I use it to make friends. I've heard stuff like that before, of women trying to say, because I think in some apps they have a friend section where you can meet people just to socialize with, whatever you want to call it. But I've heard of gaslighting tactics like this. And when men hear this, they're not going to want anything to do with it. And even with a lot of the passport bro stuff, because I used to not really understand that, right? And this was a number of years ago when I didn't. But I think a lot of reason people do the passport bro stuff is because they're worried about potential legal ramifications and societal ramifications, consequences of dating nowadays. Because I even was talking to someone, and there's some website, I can't remember what it's called, but you can essentially expose someone. He cheated, he did this, he did that, how they are on a dating app. And this dude found out that this girl, who he only went on a date with once, I think it didn't go, whatever it might be, was just slandering him, making all these kind of defamatory, defamation kind of statements. It's absolutely insane. That's why I think the passport bro thing was popular. Perhaps it still is. Why a lot of men are going to other countries, because they see the kind of westernized mindset that a lot of women now have in America, and they're wanting to seek options elsewhere. They're going overseas. They're seeing if they can find, again, like I mentioned, more traditional kind of feminine women for relationships, for dating, whatever you want to call it. Because I don't see how we could be so broken like this and people really not understand that. I mean, I haven't traveled in a while, but even when I used to go visit Greece when I was younger, the way women interacted, the way women were, was a lot more feminine. Even when I used to date when I was younger, I dated a few girls who were au pairs, which, if you guys aren't familiar with that, essentially like foreign exchange students. I think I dated one from Brazil. I hung out with one from Italy, but again, many of Peru, like all over the world, these girls will come from parts of Asia and stuff. And you see them acting much more feminine. Even when I was in university, a lot of the foreign exchange students, the women, they acted more feminine. They didn't grow up with this kind of indoctrination. And I'm not saying that they're, bound to be perfect. I'm not saying that at all. But I understand why that's a thing. I understand why a lot of people say get out of the country now. Now, I grew up in the city my whole life. I've heard some people say rural, kind of more urban areas are a lot nicer. I like to think that's the case. I hope so. But either way, guys, no matter which way you want to put it, there's no reason to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But dating nowadays is just broken. It's just toxic. I mean, that is what it is. But anyway, guys, appreciate you viewing the video. Hope you guys stay tuned for the next one. Thank you.